Hi, my name is Hannah, and for my Genius Hour, I created a loom. For those of you who are unfamiliar with what that is, it can look like this, or sometimes like this, and they're used to create woven textiles. I really struggled with deciding what I wanted to do. I wanted to pick something that I was really going to look forward to do, um, but that I didn't want to just pick something that was super easy. Um, I combed through my Pinterest boards and I sat and I thought about my hobbies and interests, and I was still struggling to come up with an idea for my project. I really wanted to find something enjoyable, but I also wanted to find something meaningful. So, something that I'd be able to use in my teaching practice later on, or something that, that I could use later on. And that was the part I was really getting stuck on. I really wanted to do something that I could use in a practical way later on, but this desire was hindering me from finding something that I just really wanted to do. As I said, I was looking through my Pinterest boards and I happened to come across a pin that I added to one of my boards about 2 years ago. It was a pin about making your own loom. So, 2 years ago, my sister lived in a house with about 7 other girls, and they were all in different programs at school. One of her housemates was studying fashion, and one month when I went to visit my sister, her housemate was working with woven textiles, and she had created this huge loom for herself and was weaving on it. And I just thought that was so cool, and I was really interested in um, looking into what everything entailed and for doing things with a loom and making your own loom. And so I was determined to make one for myself. Unfortunately, like many of my overly ambitious plans, I pinned some pins and did some research and then forgot all about it. So I found it again a couple of weeks ago when this program started, and I decided that I would try and tackle making my own loom. My Genius Hour was basically a 3-step process. It consisted of researching, building, and creating. I began with researching all kinds of handmade looms and what materials worked well, which ones didn't. And this included things like the building materials for the actual loom, as well as materials to use while looming. After tons of research, I decided to try and make my own, and I wanted to try and make it out of an upcycled picture frame. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with that term, upcycled or upcycling is when you take something that's no longer being used. Frequently, it's something that is a little bit older and you give it a new purpose. So, I found an old picture frame that was reasonably sized and that was going to work for my loom, and I bought some nails, and then I was all set to go. So, as I started, I was hammering the nails into the frame after I had marked where they needed to go, and I ran into a problem. The wood on the picture frame started to split, and that was a result of the pressure from the nails. Um, I was pretty discouraged at this point, and I thought I was going to have to start all over again. And I was discouraged because I was trying to be as eco-friendly as possible by upcycling the picture frame, and I thought I was going to have to buy new materials and all that stuff. So I was kind of disappointed. I decided to take a break and went back a few hours later to revisit it and see if there's something that I could salvage from it. And this was one very important lesson that I was reminded of. It's a very common one, but I think it's really important that sometimes you need to just walk away for a little bit. So it's something that I hope to teach my future students and something I hope to live by. Sometimes you can sit down to a project or a task and get it finished in one shot, and that's totally fine. But a lot of other projects will work out much better than we think if we take a break, reevaluate, and then jump back into our work. So that's what I did, and I decided to stick with the frame I had and try and find a way to make it work. I took out all the nails that I had already attached to the frame and glued the splitting part of the frame back together. And while it was drying, I headed off to Home Depot to try and come up with a solution. I decided to try and use a really small drill bit to drill holes that were just slightly smaller than the nails, so that they would fit really snugly and I wouldn't have to hammer them in, which would eliminate the pressure that was caused by the nails, which was causing the splitting. This worked really well, and I now have a loom. This is what it looks like. And here is my current project that I'm working on. I think that the main thing that Genius Hour taught me was flexibility. I'm usually a relatively flexible person in terms of my scheduling and things like that. I do a lot of childcare, and I find flexibility is really important with kids. You just never really know what's going to happen. But I was reminded during this project of the importance of flexibility when you're creating new things and trying to come up with new things and be creative. Um, I made a rather rigid timeline for myself with researching, then building, then focusing on looming, but it just didn't work out that way. I found myself doing research on new techniques and projects throughout the entire Genius Hour project. Similarly, I originally had a timeline that said I would have my first project completed by the end of this course, but unfortunately, that just didn't work out. I have a project that I'm currently working on, and I considered tying it off early and creating something smaller than I had originally intended, but I decided not to, but rather continue on with my current plan and finish what I wanted to finish. But knowing that I still achieved my goal that I wanted for Genius Hour, I created a loom, I used it, and I really enjoyed the process as well. So I've discovered so many things along the way, and that they really have nothing to do with my specific Genius Hour project of looming and weaving, but rather the process of Genius Hour in general. I love my project, and if you have any interest at all in knitting or crocheting, this would also be like a fantastic project for you. It's so fun. But I'm not going to try and tell you that, everyone should go out and make a loom because obviously that's not realistic because it's not for everyone. What I have learned from this experience is that so many things can be learned when you are following something that interests you or that you're passionate about. Um, Genius Hour is a great way to use those passions to learn about yourself and how you learn and who you are as a person and a learner. And yeah, I just think it's a really great way to learn more about yourself and learn lots of new things along the way. I hope that I can take this concept into my teaching in the future, and I hope to continue looming as well because I found I really enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching.